Hi, I'm Ken from Colorado Youth Outdoors. Welcome to the CYO fly tying tutorials. We hope that these short videos help you take the skills you learned here back to your house so that you can continue the creative activity of tying flies and building relationships with your family and friends. Okay, now we're going to tie size 14 Griffith's Gnat. Griffith's Gnat is a dry fly. We're going to start off with an Umpqua U-Series 001 in the size 14. It's a dry fly hook. It's a little lighter wire. We will be tying on 6/0 black uni thread. The body will be made of strung peacock herl. We're going to use 3 strands of this particular material. And we're also, for the first time, going to be selecting a feather off a dry fly hackle from a rooster cape. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We've already got our hook mounted in the vise, and we'll go ahead, as we've done in the past, and apply our thread. We'll be holding onto the tag into the thread and wrapping it under to get our thread started on the hook. You probably will notice that this hook moves a little bit more than some of the other hooks we've used. It's because it's a light wire dry fly hook. Remember from past videos that we're trying to keep the bobbin within about 1 inch of the hook, and we're trying to keep nice, light, even pressure on our thread, and we have to stay aware of the fact that once in a while we're going to take some of the twist out of our thread if we're tying right-handed. So what I've done is I've brought the thread all the way to the back before it starts around the corner into the bend of the hook. The next material we're going to attach is our hackle feather. I've pre-selected this hackle feather, so having the right size can have a lot to do with how well your fly is going to float. We generally want this dry fly hackle, when you wrap it around the hook, want it to be about 1.5 times the gap of the hook. So I've already got this feather prepped. I took off the webby material right where it was attached to the rooster cape, and I stripped a few barbules off so that it's going to be easier for me to tie it down. You'll remember we're either going to use a pinch wrap or we're going to load the bobbin by spinning it counterclockwise when we're attaching materials. So I've done that, which makes it much easier for me to catch that stem from that hackle feather, and I've just tied that hackle feather down with the shiny or convex side towards the front of the fly. Next, I'm going to prepare the materials for the body. Here I have 3 strands of the peacock herl. You'll notice where it comes off of the binding that it comes strung with, that the ends are kind of lighter colored and kind of woody and stiff. And then on the other end, you'll notice we've got some much thinner portions of that particular material. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut a little bit of that off. We want this material to be a little bit stronger than these tips. So we'll just take our scissors and cut a nice even end on that material. And now we're going to attach it to make the body. I'm loading the bobbin. We're going to go around this material and catch it with the thread. And once we've done that, we'll go ahead and lightly wrap to the rear of the fly, like so, while we're holding the material. Got all 3 strands here. One thing I try to warn people about is this material is kind of fragile. So don't make a real tight wrap right at the back, or when you start wrapping this body, it's pretty easy to break off that material. Per usual, we'll stop the thread about the width of the eye of the fly back. And now we're going to make the body. This fly is going to go pretty quick because there's really only a couple of materials. As I wrap this body, you'll notice I'm letting this material slip through my fingers. I call this slip wrapping. It's nice for me if I hold onto this real tight and start wrapping it. It's hard to keep these ends even, and more importantly, it's really easy to break this material. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping that body, and you'll notice I have that material kind of slipping through my fingers. as I wrap it down the hook. And you'll see this material, boy, this stuff in pheasant tail might be the two nicest and most popular natural materials you're ever going to use for tying flies. And when I get up to about where I left that thread, I'm going to hold it with my bobbin hand, and I'm going to pass that bobbin with some moderate pressure over the top of that material 3 times. Those 3 times are going to hold that material down really nice. Then I'm going to take my scissors and come in close to that material, and I'm going to clip it off so I don't have a big bunch sticking out. And now we're ready to palmer that hackle. Again, I have a nice long piece of hackle here, so I can just use my fingers and let it slip through my fingers. Keep in mind, if you're down to only having maybe half that much left, instead of wasting it, go ahead and use a hackle plier and hook that on the feather so that you can still use your shorter piece. In this case, I'm not going to have to. So taking that piece of hackle, I'm being careful to avoid the point of the hook. And I'm spacing these wraps out just a little bit. Many times we want to put too much hackle on a fly like this, and it doesn't necessarily make it catch more fish. Once I'm done, again, just like with the body, I'm holding the end of that feather with my bobbin hand, and with some pressure, I'm passing that bobbin over the top of that piece of hackle to tie it down. Again, we're going to come in with our scissors. Having a good pair of scissors and a good bobbin is so important to fly tying. We're going to clip that feather off that we hooked down with 3 wraps. And now, as we've learned on our earlier patterns, we're going to whip finish that fly. So same process as before. We've got our triangle and we're wrapping under that thread 3 or 4 times. We'll remove the valley, pull the slack out with our bobbin. And now we have a finished Griffith's gnat. When we get out on the water to fish with this, we're going to put a little bit of dry fly floatant on this. Maybe fish it on a little bit of a thinner piece of tippet so that it looks a little stealthier. Tell you what, when you see small midges coming off the water, those little bugs that look almost like a mosquito, if you've got this fly out there when those adults are breeding, throw this out there, keep an eye on it, the fish will go crazy for it. The Griffith's gnat in size 14.